we have to discuss the fallout of Trump's strikes on Iran over the weekend. Long story short, Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, Pete Hegseth, and the United States State Department orchestrated the dropping of 14 30,000 bombs on 3 Iranian nuclear facilities with the hopes of totally obliterating the Iranian nuclear program and preventing them from ever amassing or creating a nuclear weapon. This was a horrible failure. This did not, not even anything close to that happened. Leading up to those strikes, Israel and Iran had traded multiple missile strikes back and forth. There are hundreds of innocent people dead, dozens of residential buildings demolished. It's been 12 days since this conflict began, and Donald Trump has been seemingly working overtime trying to put together a ceasefire. He, today, earlier Tuesday, was visibly agitated with the entire situation, so much so to the point that he said fuck. He dropped an F-bomb. We have a sitting U.S. president cursing for the first time since Lyndon B. Johnson. His frustration was in regards to Israel and their reckless behaving in the over the last couple of days. He clarified that he wasn't too happy with the Iranians either, but mostly fixated on Israel. We will get into that power dynamic a little bit, but it seems to be that Donald Trump does not like not being able to exert unconditional power over Benjamin Netanyahu, even though he is fully within his realm of capabilities of making Benjamin Netanyahu subservient to him, considering that the United States is the money pit and has basically financed all of Israel's military capabilities, not only with this conflict, but also, of course, through their ongoing genocide of the Palestinians in Gaza. But let's get back on track here. Courtesy of Al Jazeera, we have an explainer. Have Israel and Iran agreed to a ceasefire? What we know, Donald Trump said the two sides reached a ceasefire shortly after Iran attacked a U.S. airbase in Qatar. U.S. President Donald Trump on Monday announced that Israel and Iran have reached a ceasefire hours after Iran launched a missile attack on the Al Udeid airbase in Qatar, the largest United States military base in the Middle East. Quote, "The ceasefire is now in effect. Please do not violate it," Trump posted on his Truth social platform on Monday. Remember, leading up to or in the aftermath of Israel's initial wave of strikes, the United States evacuated, I'm pretty certain it was all of their military bases within the region for fear of Iranian retaliation. Spoiler alert, nobody died in any of these strikes. No casualties were sustained on these strikes in this airbase in Qatar. It was largely symbolic. It was actually also pretty de-escalatory in nature. It was mostly just like a show of force. There are reports that say 13 of the 14 missiles got intercepted, but above all else, nobody died. There were no casualties. On Tuesday, Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel has agreed to the truce protocol, and Iranian state TV reported that the ceasefire had begun. However, Israel had ordered strikes on Tehran after accusing Iran of violating the truce, an allegation rejected by Iran. Here's what happened in Qatar, what Trump has said, and the latest on the ground. Did Iran attack the U.S. base in Qatar? Yes. On Monday evening, consecutive flares were seen and loud explosions were heard in Doha alongside other parts of the country. In a statement, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps said its attack was in response to the, quote, blatant military aggression by the United States on Iran's nuclear facilities. Keep in mind, folks, always have this point remain in the back of your noggin. The United States did not have to involve themselves in this in any way, shape, or form, or to any degree. These attacks that the United States did on those on the uranium enrichment facilities was totally uncalled for. It was an aggressive and escalatory attack. Tehran said it attacked the airbase because it, quote, serves as the command center of the U.S. Air Force and is the largest strategic asset of the American terrorist army in West Asia. Qatar said it had successfully shot down 18 of 19 missiles deployed. No casualties were reported. Qatar's Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman bin Jassim Al Thani on Tuesday reiterated Qatar's condemnation of Iran's missile attack on the Al Udeid airbase, calling it, quote, an unacceptable act. Quote, the attack on the state of Qatar is an unacceptable act, especially as Qatar has been making great diplomatic efforts in order to de-escalate the situation, adding Doha was, quote, taken by surprise by the move from what it considers a neighborly country. Earlier, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs summoned Iran's ambassador to protest against Monday night's attack, but Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson defended the attack, saying it was a legitimate response under Article 51 of the UN Charter. The attack was retaliatory for the unprovoked aggression against Iran's territorial integrity and national sovereignty by the U.S. on Sunday when it hit 3 of Iran's nuclear sites. Esmail Beghei wrote on X, Iran has stressed that Monday's attack was not directed at the brotherly state of Qatar. Iran feels that they have been treated badly by the United States, for lack of a better term. They have been treated unjustly, and this much is true. Not only did Israel illegally and offensively strike them almost 2 weeks ago, the United States dogpiled on them under the false pretext of them being close to having a nuclear weapon, which is not true. And the intelligence for the last 30 years has said that that is not true. What did Trump say about the ceasefire? Trump said it was a complete and total ceasefire reached between Iran and Israel. In his post at 2200 GMT, I apologize, I don't know what time zone that is for Eastern time, he wrote that the ceasefire would take effect in approximately 6 hours from now. Now, these details are really fucking weird. The timestamps, the 6-hour mark, the 12-hour mark, the 24-hour mark is very odd for a ceasefire. The whole idea of a ceasefire is to bring immediate stoppage to any sort of military action, is to end any perpetual violence. As we will see by these stipulations, it seems as though the ceasefire allowed Israel to continue. Just hold on 1 second. I have to answer my wife. Apologize about that. As you will see from the stipulations of this ceasefire, Israel had less time, or had more time, to continue strikes than Iran does, which is very strange. He additionally specified a timeline. The initial 6-hour window, which ended at 4 o'clock GMT, was to allow Iran and Israel to complete their quote-unquote final missions. Iran would start the ceasefire first at 4 o'clock GMT on Tuesday. Israel would follow 12 hours later at 1600 GMT. What the fuck does this serve? What is the purpose of this? I cannot rack the military portion of my brain, the dealmaker part of my brain, where you could attempt to broker an unbiased ceasefire and allow one side to continue military action while the other must abide by the terms of the ceasefire. It does not make any fucking sense. Israel must stick to the ceasefire for 12 hours, after which the ceasefire will be considered to be in full effect. This timeline will mark the official end of what Trump termed the 12-day war between Israel and Iran. Has Israel agreed to the ceasefire? Benjamin Netanyahu's office released a statement saying that Netanyahu had accepted the ceasefire and will deliver a statement later on Tuesday. The statement added that Israel has achieved, quote, all objective of its operation against Iran. Quote, Israel has removed a dual immediate existential threat, both in the nuclear and ballistic missile fields, the statement said. There was an interesting report, or an interesting interview, courtesy of Jeremy Scahill and Drop Site News, with a member of, I believe I forget who the gentleman was, but someone within a high-ranking Iranian official. And this official basically said that Israel agreed to the ceasefire because they basically, out of their own hubris, or the fault of their own hubris, Israel cannot maintain a military operation against a country that is as sophisticated as Iran. They simply cannot do that. They're able to conduct their genocide in Gaza because Hamas does not have ballistic missiles. Hamas does not have a standing army. Hamas does not even have a modernized military arsenal, whereas Iran does. Iran can overwhelm Israel's Iron Dome. Iran, as they say, has ballistic missiles like hypersonic weaponry that can strike both military and residential targets. The cost is simply too much. And Israel got into this conflict, at least in my estimation, because they thought that they would have the full-throated support of the United States. Benjamin Netanyahu believed that Donald Trump would get down on both of his knees and grip on his cock with both hands and either put troops in Iran or just continue to send weapons and money to Israel for them to further destabilize the region. Quote, in light of the achievement of the operation's objectives and in full coordination with President Trump, Israel has agreed to the president's proposal for a bilateral ceasefire, it added. This came after Dan Aluz, a member of Netanyahu's Likud party, opposed the ceasefire, saying the only deal the government must sign is Iran's surrender agreement. Like, these people are just fucking bloodthirsty freaks. They do not care about the human toll of anything that they do, regardless of if it's Israeli civilians, regardless of if it's Iranian civilians. All these freaks within the Israeli parliament care about is expanding their fascist ethno-state. Again, they would not be able to withstand a full-blown conflict with a regional superpower. And not only is Iran a regional superpower, they are also backed by geopolitical superpowers. It is too much of a conflict for Israel to involve themselves in. They are very quickly realizing that it is much easier for you to slaughter innocent women and children than it is to go into a full-on hot war with a modernized military. Tel Aviv-based political commentator Ori Goldberg told Al Jazeera that Netanyahu's claims that all objectives were secured before the ceasefire are ridiculous. Quote, it is really unclear, to say the least, what Israel's goals were. Over the past week, we heard Israel talk about everything from the decapitation of the nuclear program to regime change. Donald Trump also talked about regime change very openly, which virtually every commentator that I've seen that is outside of the State Department asshole has explained how that would be further destabilizing for the region. This conflict, before we even conclude with this article, just understand this conflict was all for nothing. Nobody accomplished anything here. All that happened was more unnecessary civilian death. Israel didn't get anything that they wanted. The United States didn't get anything that they wanted. The Israeli civilians in Tel Aviv were slaughtered. Iranian civilians all throughout the country were slaughtered for literally no fucking reason except for the hubris of Benjamin Netanyahu. Goldberg said Netanyahu had no choice but to back the ceasefire due to the damage caused by Iranian attacks and pressure from the Trump administration. Quote, Netanyahu decided to gamble on Trump coming to his rescue. Trump did, and Netanyahu is therefore obligated to assist in Trump's goal, which was and still is ultimately securing the regional deal and not launching a regional war. Did Iran agree to the ceasefire? Iran's top security body said on Tuesday it had agreed to the truce. The Supreme National Security Council, however, added Tehran does not trust Israel and has its hands on the trigger ready to deliver a decisive response to any violating act. Obviously, they're not going to fucking trust Israel, because why would you? If you are any Middle Eastern country, why do you think Israel would ever operate in good faith with anything? They have shown time and time again for not only the last 10 years, but for the last 77 years, they don't give a fuck about anything except the expansion of the Zionist project. Let's focus more specifically on the nuclear conversation. The United States and Israel do not want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. However, as we've said, the evidence has pointed time and time again to the contrary. Furthermore, Iran has been a proponent of denuclearization within the region, which, of course, Israel has not been. They are still continuing to amass a nuclear stockpile. Iran signed the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. Israel did not. Iran was abiding by the stipulations of the nuclear agreement that they entered into with Barack Obama back in 2014, and the IAEA continually checked in on them and found them to be well within their means of enriching uranium for the power grid, but well below grade necessary for nuclear weapons. The point is that Israel is more of a threat to regional peace in the Middle East than Iran is. Sheikh Mohammed, who is also Qatar's foreign minister, urged all parties to abide by the ceasefire brokered by the Trump administration. Mohammed said Qatar, on the side of the United States, reached out to Iran to help mediate the Israel-Iran ceasefire. Al Jazeera's Ali Hashem said that Qatar played a mediation role, helping to bring this conflict to an end. What's the latest on the ground? An Iranian missile struck a building in Israel's Beersheba on Tuesday morning, killing at least 4 people and injuring several others. The Times of Israel reported that Israel intercepted 2 Iranian ballistic missiles on Tuesday. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz instructed the Israeli military to, quote, respond forcefully to Iran's violation of the ceasefire with intense strikes against the regime targets in the heart of Tehran. Israel's military has denied the Israeli claim that it launched missiles at Israel over the past few hours in a short statement carried out by the media. In a Truth Social post on Tuesday, Trump warned Israel against dropping bombs in Iran, saying, Israel, do not drop those bombs. If you do it, it is a major violation. Bring your pilots home now. Holy shit, sorry. Israel is going to attack Iran. Israel is not going to attack Iran. All planes will turn around and head home while doing a friendly plane wave to Iran. Nobody will be hurt. The ceasefire is in effect. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Now, as I mentioned before, Donald Trump was very visibly upset with how everybody was conducting themselves throughout this whole ceasefire talk. I don't know what he expected. I really don't. He was live tweeting the ceasefire before either side even knew that there was a fucking ceasefire going on. He was broadcasting his plans live on Truth Social, and both Iran and Israel are like, what the fuck is going on? They're left virtually, I don't want to say virtually, in the dark, because they understand that Trump wants a ceasefire. But he was not helping this situation by any means. This was, I believe, as he was on his way to the Netherlands to meet with NATO countries, and he's just venting. He's just straight venting. And obviously this post went viral because he said, fuck, we have not had a president this explicit since Bill Clinton was getting slopped off in the White House. We have not had a president get this explicit since Lyndon B. Johnson was taking his dick out and waving it around the Oval Office.
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too.
Are you questioning if Israel is committed?
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now.
That's probably even funnier than him cursing, him no context dropping the biggest load we've ever seen. I have never seen a load this big. The payload was absolutely tremendous.
Now you have 12 hours. You don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because the one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have 2 countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
He does seem legitimately upset about this, which is really strange because he is well within the realm of possibility to call up Benjamin Netanyahu and tell him, hey, literally stop whatever the fuck you're doing. Otherwise, we are going to stop selling you arms. We are going to stop funding we are going to stop lending you economic aid. We're going to take away your health care. We're going to take away your free college. All of these beautiful socialist measures that they have in Tel Aviv by way of U.S. taxpayer dollars. Donald Trump holds all of the cards in every situation in which he deals with Israel and in which he deals with Benjamin Netanyahu. But it's almost like he knows that he cannot it's almost like he knows that he can't get his way because there are so many of his donors and his advisors in his ear like, listen, no, AIPAC gave us $200 million, like Miriam Adelson gave us $100 million. You just have to look like a weak buffoon. And if there's anything that Donald Trump does not like, it is appearing to be weak. In the aftermath of this, Representative Al Green introduced articles of impeachment against Donald Trump. Now, this is not so much related to the ceasefire. This is more so just a way for me to clown on Democrats for being fucking cowards, losers, these spineless ghouls that we all know that they are. I'm looking at Hakeem Jeffries. I'm looking at Nancy Pelosi. Al Green introduced articles of impeachment against Donald Trump for his unconstitutional attack on Iran. This is very clearly an impeachable offense. I don't give a shit what anyone says. Otherwise, I don't care if you think that I'm wrong. It is literally, and it is unconstitutional for Donald Trump to carry out an attack like he did over the weekend without the express approval of Congress. I'm sorry. That is how the separation of powers works. You can, if you want to have a conversation about that and like actually have it be rooted in reality, we can talk about how the foreign policy decisions of the last 25 years have warped the interpretation of that rule. But the fact remains that Donald Trump should be impeached for this, not only for its unconstitutional nature, but also for the wildness of it, the gross incompetence of it, and more so, his gross incompetence as a leader overall. This is courtesy of Axios. Democrats join the Republicans to kill vote impeaching Trump over Iran strikes. This party, both of these parties are full of fucking dick riding, cock sucking, military industrial complex loving pussies. All of these goons deserve to never hold elected office again. The warmongering goes so deep into the very fabric of our government that the only way we would ever rid ourselves of it is to literally just start over from scratch. The commitment to the death and destruction that is U.S. foreign policy is astounding. There's no other way for me to describe it. Again, this is courtesy of Axios. House Democrats overwhelmingly, mind you, joined with their Republican colleagues on Tuesday against holding a vote to impeach President Trump for striking Iranian nuclear sites unilaterally. It is the clearest signal to date of the distaste many Democrats have with the idea of even attempting to impeach Trump, an effort that would likely fail in either chamber of Congress. Yeah, because these Democrats are fucking pussies. All of them. Fucking pussies. Soft. Babies. They don't stand for fucking anything. They are just as culpable as the Republicans in every failed foreign policy decision over the last 25, 30 years. And it still persists to this very fucking day. Shame on all of them. And I really hope the venting that I want to do from this is that if you are a younger person and you live in a district with one of these fucking soulless demons, you should be emboldened to challenge them and to get their rot the fuck out of public office, because I don't trust Hakeem Jeffries to work at a goddamn Walmart any more than I trust him to be the House Minority Leader. Al Green forced a vote on a 5-page impeachment resolution accusing Trump of disregarding the separation of powers and devolving American democracy into authoritarianism by unconstitutionally usurping Congress's power to declare war. It focuses on the fact that Trump did not seek congressional authorization for the strikes or provide evidence demonstrating that there was imminent threat to U.S. forces. This is substantive. This is not just Al Green doing, this is not just Al Green being theatrical, like how Marjorie Taylor Greene was trying to impeach Joe Biden for like farting, for farting when he was supposed to be having a moment of silence during the national anthem. This was the same pretext that we saw back in 2003 when George Bush tried to justify the invasion of Iraq. There was mounting evidence from the United States intelligence agencies that said Iran was not anywhere near having a nuclear weapon. There was no reason for them to be fearful of retaliation against the United States. Any thought of that is rooted strictly in Islamophobia. The House voted 344 to 79 on a GOP motion to kill the articles of impeachment. Among Democrats, 128 voted with Republicans to defeat Greene's measure, while 79 voted to bring it to the floor. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries was among the 128, as was former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Let's just sit with that for a second. This party is so fucking cooked. I don't understand how they are. I mean, I do understand. I'm being facetious here when like I pretend to be naive, but all of this bullshit for the state of Israel. Like, forget what Donald Trump means to global peace and global stability. Think about what he means to domestic peace and domestic stability. The Democrats are not willing to get this guy the fuck out of office because they love Israel that much and because they hate Iran that much. Newsflash, Hakeem Jeffries, do you know who did 9/11? It was Osama bin Laden, who hailed from the kingdom of Saudi fucking Arabia. Saudi Arabia, to this day, remains a top ally to the United States government. At no point did Iran ever conspire to attack the United States. At no point did they ever outwardly attack the United States. Remember, in this specific instance, they were bombed aggressively, not once, but twice. Once by Israel, the closest ally of the United States, really the only ally of the United States at this point, and then by the United States themselves.